Story 1. Saw his parents at a community event in the summer of 2023. They said that he went to MIT and flunked out by his junior year, then moved to an off-grid farm in Colorado and is living in a zero-waste community. They haven't heard from him in over a year. They wanted to go and visit him just to make sure he's alive. We graduated from high school in 2012. Story 2. He developed a rare medical disorder that causes him to have intense discomfort throughout his body, and he expects to have a shortened lifespan. Despite this, he continues to be a smart, creative individual who is pursuing his passion as a screenwriter. I don't know what the disorder is. I just remember seeing several pictures of him on social media in hospital gowns, talking about how he would face this as bravely as he could. We were not particularly close. Story 3. 25 to life for drug trafficking. He was really successful with it, though. We had a similar story. Our most likely to succeed was smart and charismatic, but he loved to party. He started selling in high school, and most people didn't even know about it. He went to a state school and studied chemistry. He got into dealing with the harder stuff. He ended up selling fentanyl to 3 of his customers, and they overdosed. He's in prison, but eligible for parole. Story 4. At my school, it was split between 2 people. Number 1 ended up winning. Number 1, middle-class kid. Got a full ride to Vanderbilt, studied chemical engineering, and graduated in 2 years. Went on to do some serious hush work for the government for a couple of years. Went back, not sure where, and got a PhD in something like nuclear physics. Now teaches some classes, but his primary job is still working for the government. Does not talk to anybody from high school about what he actually does besides teaching. Everyone knows it's nuclear research, but the vast majority would probably not even understand if he was even willing to explain. He works at the Y-12 National Security Complex. Number 2. Son of a very high-ranking employee at a major car company, probably executive level. Got into Harvard to compete on the rowing team. Could speak multiple languages. Finished his bachelor's and went to work with his father. Both were very intelligent and did not talk down to anybody. Both very nice guys. Number 2 was very charismatic and obviously grew up extremely wealthy. If I had to guess, number 2 probably makes 10 times what number 1 does. Number 2 had the right connections, but like I said, he was still a very, very smart and friendly guy, and a talented athlete. So it really depends on how you define success, I guess. I'm happy both were successful. Both got along with each other well, and were willing to study with me and other students. Not elitist at all in my experience. Story 5. Caught 7 felonies for drugs and guns within a year of graduating. Didn't end up doing any real time. Got off for most of it. Got his girlfriend pregnant. She left before the baby was born. He stopped being allowed to see his daughter shortly after she was born. Could not get a job. Ended up taking care of his sick grandfather until he died. Then he OD'd the same night. His mother was an only child and lost her dad and only son on the same day. She hasn't been right since. Story 6. Studied law and interned at a pretty prestigious law firm. Was offered a contract before he even finished his degree. Became the youngest non-equity partner in the firm's history. Became the youngest equity partner in the firm's history. Then convinced they give him too many days off a week to do pro bono/charity lawyer stuff. He's still a limited partner in the original firm, but also runs his own organization that has dozens of lawyers overnight providing their services to those most in need for pretty much every aspect of law. Married his college girlfriend, has 2 kids, and still makes time to meet up with his friends, and has never boasted even once about his success. We actually find out about his achievements through third parties. If you ever needed help with anything, he would do everything in his power to help you. And to top it all off, the guy can still absolutely dominate the football pitch at 46 years old. Story 7. He grew up and became extremely attractive. He was the kid in class with glasses, braces, and weighed 90 pounds soaking wet. Went to MIT and Harvard, married a beautiful woman, and now is a vice president at JP Morgan in Asia. Nicest guy in the world whose family were refugees and went through a lot of struggles. He 100% deserves everything good in his life. Story 8. I was voted most likely to succeed. I was an ambitious and slightly above average student in high school, and I think I was voted this superlative because I was highly involved in a student business organization. I was also voted best hair, but that's just bragging rights. I barely made it through my bachelor's degree with a 2.7 GPA due to struggling with my mental health and the pandemic. And now I'm struggling in a horrible entry-level research position where I'm paid the lowest in my department despite being the most senior. The company has terribly high turnover, but my personal life is flourishing, and I consider that to be my true marker of success. I have a wonderful partner who I trust and admire. I love my beautiful home. I have 2 pets I adore, and I have a close circle of creative, funny, open-minded friends. If I compared my life to my peers, I think I'm happier than most. I believe in myself. I feel grounded in my personal values. And I know a terrible, low-paying job does not define my worth. Story 9. The student voted most likely to succeed in my 1966 high school class in Vietnam was also the top student from middle through high school. He became a high school teacher in Saigon until he retired. Numbers 2 and 3 became doctors. Both were able to flee to the U.S. in 1975 when Saigon fell. They requalified as doctors there and practiced medicine until they retired. Number 4 got and accepted a scholarship to study in America. He returned to Vietnam in 1972 to work as a foreign investment promotion specialist for the government until the fall of Saigon to the communists in 1975. He was then sent to a re-education/concentration camp. But then the communists abruptly pulled him out of the camp when they needed his expertise in crafting and leading programs to attract and manage foreign investment. He worked in this area for 3 years, as he secretly planned and successfully implemented an escape by boat for himself and 19 other people to Malaysia. From there, he was able to get admitted to the U.S. as a refugee. In the U.S., he became a software engineer, then SEI lead appraiser, then process improvement lead for a Big 3 consulting firm until retirement. Number 4 and 6 got drafted into the South Vietnamese Army. They both spent close to 15 years in North Vietnamese concentration camps, called re-education camps by the communists, but were also admitted to immigrate to the U.S. There they became grocers, opening their own grocery stores selling Asian foodstuff. Story 10. She sadly died after she just finished her first year at Harvard. She was traveling in Europe for work. While hiking with her friends, she slipped from a waterfall into a whirlpool at the base and drowned. It came as a huge shock to everyone. That woman was a freaking genius and so kind to everyone. It isn't fair she was taken so soon with so much ahead of her. The world really was a better place with her in it. We still can't get over how she's gone forever and we'll never see her again. I always remember how kind she was to me, and I try to show that same kindness to the people around me. Story 11. I was voted most likely to succeed. I was smart, but not the smartest in school or anything, so it came as a surprise. Anyway, I earned a significantly large sum of academic scholarship money to a private school in the Northeast, and graduated magna cum laude with zero debt. I started a full-time job less than a month after graduating college, and worked my way up to a director role in the same company over the past 7 years. I take home a comfortable salary and work 100% remotely. I made a pretty big dream move, 1,000 plus miles, to another state at 26, and bought my first home at 27. I have cash savings, a retirement plan, and perfect credit. I was in a horrible relationship for 10 years though, so it's not all sunshine and rainbows. Thankfully, the relationship never strayed me from the benchmarks and goals I set for myself in life. And I'm out of it now, so things are looking bright. Story 12. She got her undergraduate degree in nursing, and then worked as a nurse missionary in Africa for a few years. Went back to college to get her master's in public health, and then worked for a state-level public health department for several years. Started medical school at 28, graduated, and is now working on her residency in general surgery. Kind of an interesting roundabout way to becoming a doctor. Story 13. She couldn't get into medical school, and eventually flunked out of college, got knocked up by a townie 10 plus years older than her, and now works at the front desk at a law office in the mid-sized city I grew up in. Nice girl. I don't take any joy in her not succeeding, but high school is a blip. It's not the real world. On the flip side, the school troublemaker who always skipped class and got in fights now owns a lucrative custom motorcycle shop in Las Vegas. He's also active in charitable foundations that help bullied kids and helps run programs to get kids interested in trade schools. Story 14. Not the most successful person, but a friend of mine was voted most likely to change the world the year before mine. He got shot in the back of the head while getting off the subway just into his second year of college. He died, naturally. The shooter was an absolute stranger. The guy himself was a bubbly, energetic guy who made you smile and filled you with enthusiasm for whatever you were doing. He was a huge environmentalist, and it's partly because of him that I decided to try to get a PhD in an environment-related field. Story 15. Most successful kid in school. He became a well-known lawyer in my hometown and opened a law firm. Least successful kid in school. Started a lawn and landscaping business where he undercut the competition and grew his business to the point where they are starting to expand into other states. And he's also very successful. Both of them have advertisement billboards around town, as well as run local commercials on TV. The most successful kid ended up representing the least successful kid in court over a contract bidding dispute with the same district they both went to school, and won the lawsuit and contract. Story 16. I won this award in high school, and I'm honestly really not doing good. Pretty much 100% failure to launch. Haven't been able to keep a job for more than a year in the 10 years of adulthood I've had. Living in low-income housing and being unable to afford it. But I'm too gay and too old to be able to live with my parents anymore. I flunked out of college, am chronically single, can't keep a job for more than a year at the longest due to mental issues. They really had me pegged entirely wrong back then, because apparently I am 100% the type of person who peaked in high school, feeling like I'm gonna be lucky to even make it to 40 at the rate I'm going. Story 17. If I recall, he went to a not at all prestigious state school in another state. And I think he works an office job of some sort. Married, and heard he recently welcomed his first kid. From what I understand, he never had any desire to go to big Ivy Leagues or change the world or anything. He just wanted a simple life, and I think he succeeded in doing exactly what he wanted to do. Story 18. It was me. I've climbed the corporate ladder about as high as I want. I bought a home in a HCOL area. Top 5 to 10% income earner and NW for my age. Outside of being a professional, I get to live where I want, not worry about money for my expensive hobbies or outings, and have a fulfilling social life. Apart from dating being a struggle, I am about as content as I can get. Story 19. It was me, actually. They were right. I succeeded. I was a gay boy who straddled both the honors class nerds and the drama geeks. But I left my crappy small town in the South and have never looked back. My parents don't even live there anymore. I haven't been back in over 10 years. Went to a regular large university outside my state because I got a scholarship. Nowhere crazy prestigious, but I specifically wanted to go to a college no one else from my school was going to, so no one knew who I was. I worked through a lot of teenage trauma around my sexuality and fell into a great group of mostly queer friends that I'm still close with 20 years later. Even though some of us live across the world from one another. Have built a successful career in finance, moved to LA after college, then NYC, now living in London. Paused to get an MBA from a very prestigious institution during that time. I am, to the best of my knowledge, the only person from my small town that lives in the UK. One other person I know of lives in Europe, and we're actually planning to meet up this year. There's still a petty little part of me that wishes I had shown up to my 20-year high school reunion to basically brag to a bunch of mostly terrible backwards people. But I try to rise above. Story 20. He went on Jeopardy and won a few episodes. She didn't fit in college. Got crazy depressed and committed suicide. She was an extremely sweet person. I never associated with her in high school, but through a mutual friend, we were at the beach together about a month before she left us. My wife met her there, and the two of them hung out all day and night. She was in our house that night, crashing on our sofa. The two of them exchanged numbers, but the one time she reached out to my wife, she was unavailable to hang out. Within 2 weeks, she was gone. My wife still feels absolutely terrible about it nearly 15 years later. This thread made me curious who the female winner was, so I actually dug a yearbook out. Damn, that was a mistake. Story 21. We had two, and I was one of them. And I've had a great career as a CEO and COO for various companies. Lots of cool adventures around the world for work and play, and a ton of fantastic stories from friends I've made. Most importantly, I've raised an amazing daughter, and I'm about to get married to the most amazing and beautiful woman I have ever met. I feel like I was indeed highly successful. The other one was smarter than me, and one of my coolest friends in high school. She changed her name sophomore year of college, and as I understand, was an escort for a while. Did a little prison time for fraud, and we all lost track of her after that. Story 22. Well, let's see. I thought I wanted a career directing television shows and movies. But my mother, who couldn't stand the thought of me being too far from home, talked me into turning down a full-ride National Merit Scholarship at Boston University. Instead, I got a broadcasting degree from Texas Tech. That turned out to be worthless, so I struggled for a while. Eventually, I joined the Air Force out of desperation. That turned into a very successful military career, and for 24 years I traveled all around the world. Along the way, I earned a master's degree in CRIM. Now I'm retired from active duty. I live full-time in Germany, and I design large-scale wartime simulation scenarios that train US and NATO forces to work together more effectively. I'm married to the love of my life, and we have amazing adult kids who we're helping to achieve their dreams, while trying to avoid passing along all the traumas our patients inflicted on us. Meanwhile, our class valedictorian rebelled against her ultra-religious parents, got pregnant right after graduation, married her drug-addict boyfriend, and promptly dropped off the face of the earth. I'm from a small town in New Mexico. My high school classmates that I know of who are successful these days are pretty much only the ones who manage to escape and find opportunities elsewhere. Story 23. He went on to be a scientist, then went to the top medical school in America, was declared one of the top 10 minds in America, and pretty much rewrote the book on treatment for multiple types of rare, previously deemed untreatable cancers. I'm 33, and he's already retired. He also invented tons of treatment types and medical supplies, and the patents alone have made him extremely wealthy. He does philanthropy work all over the globe in impoverished countries. Invented this solar tractor thing to replace bulls in African countries. Just a bunch of really awesome stuff. He also likes to party. He has an absolute mansion in the hills out here. His neighbors complained about the noise from his parties, so he bought their mansion for well above what it was worth. Legitimate Great Gatsby parties, live entertainment, shows, themed the whole 9 yards. I went to a few of his parties prior to having kids. It was quite the experience. Overall, a really interesting dude. Almost seems borderline autistic. I don't know if you've seen that Joe Rogan podcast with him and Elon Musk and how awkward it is as they get going. Well, that's him all the time. It's like there's a 5 to 7 second delay while he processes what you've said and thinks of all possible outcomes before he responds with like 2 or 3 word answers. Story 24. Homecoming queen and most likely to succeed. Family owned a large manufacturing facility in town. After high school, my friend worked at an auto body shop that fixed cop cars that needed repairs. I was hanging out with him one night, working on my own car. There was a cop car there that needed some minor repairs. He found a photo album in the car that had Polaroid pictures in it of the local drug dealers and other people he had arrested. Mid-1980s. We were flipping through it and saw a few people that we recognized. Oh, there's Jimmy Smith. Oh, there's Mike Jones. Got to the section of local prostitutes and crack whores. Holy F, it's Sherry F. I laughed my ass off because she turned me down when I asked her to go on a date in high school. Story 25. I'm a high school teacher. Mixed feelings about my career choice. Just started to feel like I have things figured out. Graduated from high school almost 20 years ago, so I'm in my mid-30s now. I still consider myself a driven and creative person, but many of my betting on myself moments and seize the day moments and do more, be more moments have turned out to be monumental failures. Life has kicked my butt a fair amount since high school. I still think I'll live a successful life, but the word success has been reframed a few times. I'm genuinely happy with my family and my personal growth, but I often look back on choices I've made between age 18 and now and consider that I have chosen poorly. Some people say they have no regrets. Everything is a learning experience. That's not me. I've got regrets that I've learned from. Way she goes. Story 1. Got a full ride to Harvard, did an internship his first summer at Intel, and was killed by a drunk driver a few weeks after arriving in California. Couldn't believe it when it happened 25 years ago. Still can't really believe it. Story 2. The smartest kid in my school was really popular, and he was one of my closest friends. But when he graduated, he left everyone and everything behind, including his family. He even changed his name. I found out this little bit of information because a friend went to an academic conference and showed me a group photo, and he was in it. I exclaimed, "That's my friend Pascal." He kept his first name, but his last name was an anagram of his original name. Story 3. There are two. I remember one of them crying when they got an A- on a test in like 7th grade. One of them, the one who cried, is an executive in a Fortune 500 company. Nothing special, but making a lot of money. The other one is a brain surgeon. Story 4. After never even having smoked a cigarette or drank alcohol in high school, straight A's all the way through, he got a full ride to a really good university. As a freshman, he dropped acid, walked out in front of a car, and was killed. Sort of reminds me of a college friend. He was straight, no drugs or alcohol. I think he even stayed away from caffeine. Said addiction ran in his family, so it made sense. Decided, though, that immediately after graduation he wanted a huge party and had his first taste of alcohol. Got insanely trashed, but survived. For about 20 years. He died of liver failure due to severe alcoholism at the age of 41. I hate that I remember where he was when it started, but what did we know? Story 5. He went to MIT, works for Apple, and has a very expensive home in California. He also has a wife and 4 kids and seems to be very happy. I remember he was programming games in high school and was valedictorian. A big nerd who became a wealthy big nerd. Story 6. Went to a big college, got a degree in tech, now makes 6 figures and owns a townhouse outside of Baltimore. He lives with his grandmother mainly, smokes a shitload of weed, flies a girl from Colorado to f***ing smoke with. I married his sister. Story 7. Dropped out of college to marry and support the much younger woman he got pregnant. Now, 30 years later, owns a board game store with a large back room for miniature painting and games and plays dad to half the neurodivergent kids in town. Still married to the same woman too. It's not a high-flying life, but he makes a difference to so many people. To make you all feel better, he was 23, I think, and she was 18. A big age gap when you're young. It was also in the Netherlands, where at least at the time, I've been gone a while, we didn't really care so much as long as it wasn't a 10-year difference or one of them was under 15. Teenagers have drives. It happens. Story 8. Had a full ride through Berkeley. Ended up experimenting a lot with hallucinogens. Started to believe he was a star child or starseed and was from another planet. Ended up starving himself in a national park to die with the Earth so he could meet other star children. F***ing miss and love you, buddy. Story 9. Unfortunately, the smartest kid in my class in middle school ended his life in 8th grade. He was also a brilliant violinist. I was his stand partner in the orchestra. I was proud to be his brother's stand partner in high school. Rest in peace, Connor. Story 10. When I was in middle school, we had a super smart kid join later on in the semester that was always teased because he was above everyone else mentally. I think in 8th grade he was doing 10th or 11th grade mathematics. Any test that he took, he passed with flying colors. Hardly even studied. He befriended me. I was kind of quiet in middle school because of stuff going on at home. His mom always made me an extra sandwich whenever she made his lunch. I lost contact after graduation, but a few years later when I was a sophomore in college, I decided to look him up on Facebook and couldn't believe what I saw. There was my friend, the Brainiac, smoking out of a huge bong as his profile picture. I think he had to take it down because when I looked him up again, he had pics of him drinking out of a funnel. Story 11. The smartest kids I knew in school turned to alcohol and doing really dumb shit. Maybe not all, but quite a few. The bullies didn't amount to anything either. The mediocre ones in the middle were the ones that had successful careers and normal lives. My bullies became cops. No joke. Of the 3 people I knew from high school who eventually became cops, all of them were bullies. Only one of them really bullied me, and it was only for a little while until I confronted him in front of some of our mutual friends and asked him why he was being a dick and what had I ever done to him. Then he laid off me, but he was still a bully to other people. Dude had rage issues too, and the reason he started f***ing with me was because I refused to follow his orders. When I found out he was a cop a couple of decades later, I was just like, holy crap, I'd hate to ever get pulled over by him. He acted like one of those cops you see foaming at the mouth, screaming in people's faces for refusing to let him shit on their rights before he even had any official authority. Can't imagine what he turned into once he got some. Story 12. That was me, valedictorian of my high school, voted brainiest by my peers for the school yearbook, highest university entrance grades of my school, quintessential nerd. I went into chemical engineering because that was the degree brainy kids pursued. I was okay at the job, but never great. Bounced around across 5 different manufacturing companies, mostly in entry-level positions or close to it. Had some mild successes, got a few promotions, got made redundant a lot. Finally secured a management position after 10 years, and realized I absolutely hated every aspect of the job. Did a lot of soul-searching. It really was a massive shock to my system that I had failed at something that was meant to be for the smart people. Took a lot more for me to redefine my identity without being smart at the heart of it. These days, I teach chemistry at the local high school. I absolutely love it. Kind of regret that I turned my nose up for years because I was too smart to be a teacher. But I can't change the past, so all that's left to do is learn from it. Story 13. Died in a car accident sophomore year. I loved her. First person I felt those feelings for. I could remember the first time I saw her in kindergarten. We also learned to golf together my freshman year. It was tragic because she had so much potential and died overachieving, trying to get to school early for jazz band practice. It was snowing and school hadn't been delayed or canceled yet, as our superintendent liked to always wait until the last minute. She hit a slick spot and collided with a semi. Story 14. He was an idealist, became a priest and served in the Vatican, became disillusioned and left the church. Got 2 master's degrees and died by his own hand. He was a truly good person who couldn't marry his ideals with the reality of the church. Story 15. She got a PhD in neuroscience from Stanford, and I think she's a professor or associate professor somewhere now. She was probably the sweetest girl I'd ever met. I was an intelligent underachiever, and I ended up in a few AP courses with her because our teacher saw my test scores and refused to continue to let me do dip things with my dip friends. She was always super proud of me when I actually showed up and put some effort in, and lo and behold, got excellent marks. Honestly, she really turned around the last 2 years of high school for me. Also, she's wicked hot now. A hot genius. Story 16. He spent years researching how to cloak himself like the Predator from the 1987 film with Arnold Schwarzenegger. He got surprisingly far before he ended up getting a top-secret government job. Haven't heard from him since. Maybe he's a secret agent. Maybe he actually became the Predator? No one knows. Story 17. From one school, he was razzed, not quite bullied, because he wanted to be a truck driver. He later graduated as valedictorian from our local VOCTEC school, got an associate's degree in diesel mechanics, did that for a few years, and later went back to the community college and has taught it since the late 1980s. He would have been a drastic failure as, say, a doctor or a lawyer. From another school, she and her husband are probably sovereign citizens. I sure wish I was making that up. Story 18. She married a religious fruitcake 12 years older than she was almost immediately after graduation and started pumping out kids. Never went to college. Has never had a job. Spends her days on Facebook shaming people for being sinners. Story 19. He did his undergraduate degree and couldn't afford a master's, so he ended up working in offices for 15 years where he had to hide his intelligence around his coworkers. Finally founded his own company and is now in politics where he can be the smartest person in the room and people will respect it. Good guy, just way above most people's level of intelligence, and has had to hide it most of his life. Story 20. Went to college for mathematics as one of the most promising young minds in the Midwest. Was in college for a year before switching to study Spanish. Dropped out a year later. Currently works at GameStop 20 minutes from his parents' house, where he lives. He was a good friend of mine, but I recently learned that he considered me his best friend. It's such a shame that his intelligence is going to waste. He is literally so smart and has such a talent for math, but he seems content with his life. Who am I to judge? As long as he's happy, hell, as long as he's alive, it's not a waste. People with intelligence aren't obligated to go off and be rocket scientists or millionaires, or else be considered a waste, you know? Working at GameStop is perfectly respectable, for him or anyone else. I know you likely didn't mean that unkindly, but I feel obligated to say this for all the people out there who feel afraid that what they do is considered a waste. They hear it and fear it too often. Story 21. I was one of those. I got my BA and then dropped out of grad school. Now I make $18K in a developing country, and I'm reasonably happy with my life after about 7 years of on and off suicidal depression. Story 2. He was drafted in the 7th round by the St. Louis Cardinals and was getting his master's in biomed at 21 to 22. Played a few years in lower ball after signing around $250,000 signing bonus. Now he's a nuclear medicine doctor. Story 23. That was me. I'm now a stay-at-home dad of 4 wonderful kids and in a loving 16-year marriage. My wife is my best friend. While I may not have reached my full potential academically, I'm happy. Very happy. I realized that life is too short to care about anything other than living my life the way that I want to, not the way that I'm expected to. Story 24. He got someone pregnant immediately out of high school, so he decided not to go to the Ivy League school he had a full scholarship to and stay at home to be a dad. He got his associates at the local community college and is now a science teacher at the same high school he graduated from. I talk to him every once in a while when I'm down there to visit my parents. He's always asking about my job because he wanted to be a software engineer when he graduated high school, and the community college didn't even have regular computer classes, so he settled for some environmental science degree. Story 25. Overdose. Kid was valedictorian and probably the highest person at our school at any given moment, and that's saying something considering the town we were in. Sad as fuck. R.I.P. Story 26. I'm late here, so no one will bother to read, but I'll look back on this one fondly. He went on to ace the board exam, twice in 2 different fields. I couldn't be prouder. Most importantly, he became my boyfriend and changed many perspectives I had in life. I'd have never lived up to this day were it not for him, and I hope I did and still do my best to care for him the same. It wasn't always a shiny day. He had very depressive episodes, with lots of doubts and being forced to face heavy pressure. We had a toxic relationship in between, and a lot of things weren't healthy at all. I even projected a lot of insecurities, especially being with this very intelligent person compared to my inferior self. Imagine hormones and adulting mixing up. Wow. Fortunately, we are in a so much better state right now. Man, was it a journey. We changed and developed as our own individuals, with lots of moments shared together. I'm lucky to have him. I don't care if he's smart or whatever. He's funny and is able to listen to me rant about whatever favorite thing I have for the day. He's not a cat person, but damn, I'm trying to convert him through the cat subreddits here, and I'll be here for him. Story 27. All the pressure made me have a mental breakdown in college. I was diagnosed with many illnesses mentally. Finished my first round with a 3.98. Got diagnosed with fibromyalgia. Fucked my body and memory so bad, I had to quit my job working at our doctor's office. Developed severe myofascial pelvic pain syndrome. I lost everything, including my husband. He cheated and left because not working made me not part of the team. I wish I put more effort into experiences rather than education, as now I'm disabled, and it all feels pointless and worthless as I'm in debt I can't work out of. Story 28. She became a model, stripper, and OnlyFans girl, voted as most likely to succeed with great expectations for her future. God bless the private education system. She spoke of going into politics and law. The modeling must pay better. Either way, gal is making some serious money. Story 29. He went from the smartest dude to the most hurt one. A couple of kids envied his skills and whooped his ass into a coma. After that, he downward spiraled to the abyss and found drugs. Now he's trying to hold it together while working in a bowling alley. Kids are savages. Story 30. Dude signed a multi-million-dollar offer for an engineer at Comptroller who sent him to Europe where he traveled, added to his funds, became friends with a pop idol in Korea, came back here and left again to go be Zaphod Beeblebrox. Guy farted clouds of luck and charisma. Winner, and a genuinely kind man. Story 31. I was one of 19 valedictorians in my class of about 520. No weighted grades, so we all had 4.0 GPA. I got a Bachelor of Science degree at a state university, magna cum laude. Worked lab tech jobs, worked for the Forest Service, moved overseas, earned a master's, and now I'm a park ranger. Doing well academically in high school and college really burnt me out. Now I get to work outdoors and I'm pretty happy. I still have regrets and I think about what I could have been, but I try not to let it get to me. No clue what the other 18 valedictorians are up to. Story 32. Smartest 2 people in my year are successful engineers who are smart enough to work hard but also enjoy life. Like me, they're weebs, love socializing, and we catch up regularly, be it in person or online to play a few games. It's a simple but happy life. They are my best friends. Thought I'd put something a bit happier after reading the other comments. Story 33. I amounted to nothing. That's what most people would say looking at me. But the truth is, I am living a satisfying and happy life. No debt, because I chose not to go to college. A wonderful woman who is madly in love with me, and I enjoy my free time doing what I love. I'm happy. I'm not rich. I don't have a prestigious job or title, but I am legitimately satisfied with my life. I win. Story 34. I think she got a literature or education degree, and more recently, as we hit our 30s, she's had 2 kids. The grade below me is a bit more interesting. They had 2 really intelligent twins. One works in financial markets. I'm not sure what she does, don't want to say and be wrong. Her brother has had a truly meteoric rise in aerospace engineering. In 5 years, he went from a graduate and an entry-level position writing build manuals, I think, to a project manager for the design of a manned and unmanned, my understanding is that there are variants, space vehicles. He got his pilot's license while in college, and has started back at flight school to get his instrument rating. He's musically gifted as well. In fact, I've known him for 11 years at this point, and I'm not sure I've ever seen him perform poorly at something he set his mind to. Quite the contrary. He's someone who sets a 5-year goal, meets it in a year or less, then sets an even more outlandish 5-year goal, and meets that too.